法定人數夠㗎啦。
We're former quorum members. We'll now proceed to the election of the chairman and deputy chairman of the panel on education for 2019. I believe members are familiar with the procedure. So we'll proceed to the election proper. Nominations, please. Ms. Tanya Chan. Madam Chair, I would like to nominate Mr. Yip Kin Yuen. We need a seconder, a member who seconds the nomination. Mr. Siu Ka-chun. Mr. Siu Ka-chun seconds the nomination. Do we have another nomination?
OK， 葉建源議員，你同唔同意接受呢？
接受。
Do you accept the nomination, Mr. Yip Kin Yuen? Yes, I do. Do we have another nomination?
咁我照例數。
So I will count to 3, 3, 2, 1. There's no other nomination. I declare Mr. Yip Kin Yuen elected ipso facto as chairman of the panel on education. Oh, thank you, members. Now we would elect a deputy chairman of the panel for 2018-2019. A valid nomination must be made verbally by a member, seconded by another member, as well as accepted by the member so nominated. Ms. Ann Zhang, I nominate Mr. Jiang Wing-sun. Any seconder? Is seconded by Mrs. Regina Yip. Mr. Jiang Wing-sun, do you accept the nomination? Yes, I do. Do we have another nomination? So I'll count to 5. In line with the usual practice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No other nomination. I declare Mr. Vincent Jiang Wing-sun elected ipso facto as deputy chairman of the panel on education. Mr. Jiang Wing-sun, you can either come on to the stage to join me or stay in your seat. Item 2. Meetings schedule of meetings for 2018-2019. I believe we have all received scheduled. It will be the regular meeting will be held on the first Friday each month. And as for the first Friday in April 2019 and June as well, the first Friday is a public holiday, so we need to make some changes to the meeting dates, which have been marked in the paper, in the document showing the schedule of meetings. All right, any question about that? Item 3, items for discussion at the next meeting. The next regular the next meeting will be held on the 2nd of November, and we are going to have a policy address briefing by the Secretary of Education on the 2nd of November. The relevant papers have been issued for members' information. And this is also the date of the next regular meeting. So the administration has proposed another item, that is a project involving 230 classroom primary schools at Queen's Hill, Fanning. So we need to extend the meeting by 30 minutes. So it will be from 10:45 to 1:15 p.m. on that day. A notice will be issued by the Secretariat to members in due course. Please also refer to the document in CB 4, bracket 4, 5, 18, 19, Appendix 5 for the list of outstanding items for discussion. And your comments are invited on the list. Ms. Elizabeth Kwok. Thank you, Chairman. I would like to have something devoted to STEM education. I know the government is going to promote this, but how does the government go about it, and do they have a plan or program? Or I would like to know something about their plan. And I also like to invite some schools to come to talk to us. We are going to have a duty visit to Finland to study their education system and the transformation that they introduced some time ago, so as to inform us on what we may do for Hong Kong. A few days ago, the Secretary for Education said something which are considered to be derogatory to the meaning and the significance of Cantonese to Hong Kong. And then the Secretary subsequently said he was misunderstood. Maybe the Secretary should be invited to come over to talk about his assessment of the teaching of the teaching of the Chinese language subject through Cantonese vis-a-vis Putonghua, and also whether they are going to look into this or devote more resources to research into the language media for the teaching of the subject of Chinese language, whether it should be Putonghua or Cantonese. Professor Anthony Zhang has been commissioned by the government to look into the self-finance post-secondary programs and also the associate degree programs. He said there should be a dual-track system involving both associate degree programs and higher diploma courses. And I have also suggested one of the items in the list, and that is gender education. So if we are going to visit Finland in our duty visit, I would also like to study how Nordic countries conduct gender education. Well, I want to talk about a school social worker. Things are rather chaotic for the schools and for the social worker sector. I want to look into various issues such as social workers for kindergartens, primary schools, and also whether the two should be related. The Secretary for Education said that he would like to encourage the schools to give less homework during the holidays. And then there was the guidelines on reducing the amount of writing for homework. Are we going to have a chance to look into homework policy? Thank you. Dr. Fernando Zhang. I know that the Secretary will come to brief us on education-related initiatives in the policy address. But there are so many items. And on SC and related measures, we don't have the details. I hope the Bureau can give us a paper as soon as possible. And the discussion may take more time. The policy address briefing may not be a sufficient forum. So you are suggesting that they should give us a more detailed briefing and, if necessary, taken up for more detailed discussion later. Also for the ethnic minorities, some education initiatives have been announced, but some community organizations are saying that they have yet to be informed of the details. So we may need to take it up separately. And actually, we have Dr. Kokake and I myself, and you, Chairman, have suggested many of the items on the list. So on SEN needs and disabled students and their post-secondary education should be taken up. I'm talking about SEN students and disabled students and the difficulties they encounter in relation to university and post-secondary education. Ms. Zhang, towards the end of the last session, the members expressed concerns on some items, and some of the items have yet to be assigned a timing. For example, the new senior secondary curriculum and assessment and the reviewed, some 6 or 7 members have raised this issue. So maybe you should take this up when you see the Secretary for Education. And also the homework policy mentioned by Mr. Siu Ka-chun should, in my view, be also discussed within the current session. And also, under paragraph 8 is a review of education system and implementation of parent education. I believe we should attach importance to parent education. We should offer help to parents so that they can take care of students after school. So we should do it ASAP, so that we know the way forward and also what should be covered in future discussion. And also we have got the professional and vocational training issue to cover. If young people receive professional training, it will be easier for them to get employment. So these items should be addressed because they are our concerns. Mr. Michael Tien, first, it's time we review the objective of kindergarten and primary education. So are we going to broaden the knowledge base, or do we want to stimulate learning interest? So if that's the case, perhaps an exam is not a good idea. And also we should look at policies which straddle different bureaus. For example, promotion of reading, the library, borrowing the outlets, machine is popular, but it's under the HAB. And then after school childcare is related to the work of the Labor and Welfare Bureau. So I would like to have an item on cross-bureau policy issues. And the only thing that I want to criticize the policy address is about the assessment on English proficiency. We have been talking about whether we should use Putonghua and or Cantonese in teaching Chinese language. But how about English proficiency? Are we going to continue with the policy on bilingualism and triliteracy?
Some third item is to promote the students' interest in learning English. The policy address is blank on this point. You keep talking about reading. If you give the child a book the child will not read that book. Would there be someone to read the book to go together with the child, and how should the child read the book, for example? Fourthly, for economically deprived secondary students, and whether there's any subsidy scheme, there's a lot we can discuss in respect of that. Finally, support for every minority students studying Chinese. I always think that that there is not enough support, and I think we should explore into that. Dr. Cheng Chung Tai. Thank you. First of all, I think in September 2009, when we started the new secondary curriculum. So after we have the new curriculum in 2019, it will be 3 years after we have introduced a new curriculum. There is no reason why the Bureau or this council will not conduct a review on the new senior secondary school curriculum. This year, I think your chairman yourself had followed up on the on the admission of non-JUPAS admission of tertiary students. I think since next year, it will be 10 years after we first introduced the 334 curriculum. I think it's time for the government to have a review on that. And some members also refer to the question of teaching Chinese through the medium of Putonghua. The secretary always talk about our policy of bilingual and education, but there are no specific numbers. But the fact is that many schools are now choosing not to teach Chinese through the medium of Putonghua. Apparently, we don't have a specific discussion or review on this policy. I wonder whether or not we can have an item on the agenda to follow up on this. Starry Lee. Chairman. My concern is about the pressure which students are subject to. I understand that after we have committed the resources, I thought that the students could be able to learn in a more, will be learned under less pressure. But that is not what we are seeing. Students are now under a lot of pressure, and sometimes we hear about students committing suicide. Now, it's a very complex issue, but I think anything we do in education, eventually it should be for the benefit of the students. Now that we've committed so much resources, we've done so much work, but we still have so many, problems, and many parents are now opting for the students to actually opt for other alternative curriculum. So all these issues, I hope you will talk to the secretary. I think before we formulate any education policy, I think we should conduct a stress test on students. It may have to do with the homework policy, but tackling the homework issue alone is not enough. Even if you reduce the amount of homework, it doesn't mean the students don't face any pressure at all. I mean, the whole question of DSC and so on. I think all these matters, I think you should take up with the secretary. I think the whole point of our education policy is that we don't want our students to be subject to much pressure. And we also hope that our students will be able to do better and learn in a happy environment. Priscilla Leung. Thank you. I'd like to follow up on the question of homework for students. The CE in its policy agenda talked about the testing for general studies, and that there should be a review. But the policy address this time has not touched too much on that. I think we should revive this item. During the last term, I raised this with the chairman, Dr. Ann Chang, and she said that the government will come back with an answer for us in the second half of this year. So I think we need to follow on that. The CE has actually allocated a lot of resources in education, and that should be commended. But I think she should also tell us, after we have committed all these resources, would it help enhance the quality of our teachers, and in the area of curriculum design, there are certain subjects where there are no exams required. So how can we make them more, able to meet the needs of our community? Chairman, I agree with the points raised by other colleagues. I think most of we tend to focus too much on the teaching of skills, but many parents have told me that students nowadays like to, curse and speak vulgar language. They are being very rude to teachers and so on. So I'd like to ask the government and the Education Bureau whether or not they will conduct a review regarding moral education and the teaching of etiquette and manners. It's not when you have such extreme, behavior. I think we should really review what has gone wrong. Otherwise, if the students, do not do well in terms of the morals and the manners, I think it will really be damaging to our society. Chairman, one item I'd like to propose is the JUPAS and non-JUPAS student enrollment program. I think the chairman yourself had followed up on this item, and I think all of us are asking whether the two methods of recruitment should provide equal opportunities for students to enroll. On the other hand, there have been many controversies. Some ethnic minorities students have told us that it's not very easy for them to actually, be admitted. Dr. Jonas Ho, thank you. Regarding the proposed items for discussion, item 9, that is review of life planning education. I'm very interested in the review and its effectiveness. I hope that we'll have an early discussion on this item. According to the numbers I've been able to look at, I understand that the government has only created a post, but I don't think it has been very effective in helping students to find employment. Well, the policy address touched on the question of salaries for kindergarten teachers. I hope we can put this onto the item as well. The other one is item I'm concerned about is pressure which students have to face. And thirdly, regarding the promotion of vocational and professional education, Dr. Cheng and another colleague have already raised the same point also. Finally, for EMs, the Chief Secretary has already promised additional resources to be deployed in this area, and I hope we will follow on that. Dr. Eleanor Wong, your second round. It's my first round, so I'll go first. As in the same as last year, I have more than 20 items. I will not read out all of them one by one. There are 8 items which are ongoing. I hope the government give us written information so that we could be given the latest update. For the other items, many of them have already been touched upon by other colleagues. I'd like to highlight in particular about the demand for school places in different districts and whether the relevant measures to stabilize the situation, and also the non-JUPAS recruitment policy of tertiary institutions, and also for our kindergartens, whether we're going to have a salary scale for teachers. I hope all that we will be able to follow up. So for these 21 items, I will forward them to the clerk. Dr. Eleanor Wong, I'd like to propose 2 more items to be added to the list. The first one is the injection of $20 billion into the research fund so that more funds would be made available to support the research conducted by academics at universities. I hope the RGC can also come and tell us what specific measures they have in mind to make the mechanism more transparent, and also how they can promote more local research into areas like culture and history and so on, and whether or not a certain portion of the fund could be designated for for local research, so that we will be able to encourage more people to conduct research items related to Hong Kong. Secondly, I think this was actually included on the list, but we've not really discussed the arrangement for teachers in primary and secondary schools. But same for universities, we have many teachers who are employed on contract terms, and these teachers could be, on contract to teach one subject in one university and another subject in a different university. Right now, we have to deal with the contract staff in secondary schools and universities, and whether or not we can improve in terms of their job stability. Although the government is saying that the tertiary institutions are autonomous, but still I think this is something we need to discuss. Any other supplements? If not, as you can see, members have actually raised many issues. I've already written down 3 pages of such items, and I also have a list of items that I would like to propose. So we have lots of items and we have limited time. So I hope that together with the Deputy Chairman, we can come up with the best way forward when we meet with the Secretary. And if members have any further items to propose, you're welcome to submit them in writing. Now, do members have any other matters to raise? If not, then our meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.